Listener discretion is advised. This episode discusses real-life criminal cases, including potentially distressing details. While we approach these stories with care and respect, some content may not be suitable for all audiences, especially young listeners.
Welcome to Texas City Tales Unsolved. My name is Ramari.
I'm Jennifer.
And today we have Detective Winstead. Tell us what case we're going to help you solve today.
This is a case from 2010 of Miss Jean Britt.
Okay.
Can you tell us a little bit about Miss Britt, like who she was?
She was she was retired. She was 84 years old. She lived by herself. Her husband, I guess, had died several years before that, and she was known as the neighborhood watchdog. So, and she got that because she walked the neighborhoods and visited with her neighbors and stuff, and kept an eye out for things that might seem wrong or look out of place.
So she was pretty active.
Very active. I was told that she would mow her own lawn. Could be seen up on top of her roof.
Wow.
Okay.
Hammering, so yeah.
So this was not, like a quiet sitting in the chair.
No,
like she was out and about.
I didn't know her personally, but not from my understanding, no.
Yeah.
So what happened on that sad day?
So it kind of works backwards, right? Because usually when we have a case like this, the victim has to be discovered, which this is something that happened, a homicide that happened inside of her residence. And so she has a daughter that lives nearby or within the Houston metropolitan area, and she hadn't heard from mom in a few days, so her and a few family members came to Texas City to check on mom. And that's when they arrived, they didn't notice her car was not there in the driveway, and the whole house was locked up.
The house was locked up.
Completely, yes. All the doors, all the windows.
Interesting.
Yeah, even like, it's the daughter, one of the daughters is the one that came down, and she had obviously a key to the house. So first thing, what would you normally do? She would try to go through the front door. But when she did, she had to unlock the door, and I guess you call it like a security chain.
Like the deadbolt.
Was like the actual chain was on the door. So that means it was locked on the inside. So they ended up having to go in through an alternative door.
Interesting. Was there anything else that was kind of unusual about the house when they first got in?
When they went into the house, they noticed that all the power was cut off from the house. That there's no power inside the house, which that's weird, right? This happened she was discovered on June the 7th, 2010. So you're talking about the summertime. That would be unusual for your power to be cut off or turned off.
What would the thinking be behind that if someone turned off the power? Like, do you know a reason why they would do that?
Like the suspect? Conceal your crime that you just did. So the family goes in. They go in. It's a fairly large house. Miss Britt, I wouldn't call her a hoarder, but she collected items throughout the year. This is I learned this from the family. She collected items throughout the year. It would have garage sales to help pay her sales, her property tax. So she was a collector of things. So the family goes in to look for her, and they eventually find her in one of the bedrooms.
Was anything missing from her house? I know you said she collected things. Like, did it seem like a robbery?
Well, let's start like this. So obviously they find mom is deceased, so they call the police.
Okay.
And the routine would be the patrol officers would go out there. The guys in uniform would go out and do an initial report. And they go, oh, well, we have a deceased lady. So they would call out the detectives and then the crime scene people. So crime scene comes in and starts processing, taking pictures, making an inventory of things. And you'll see in a couple of the photographs that I provided what her house kind of looked like. So it's kind of hard to tell what was missing, if anything. So I believe it took some time, probably days or maybe even weeks, for the family to actually go through the house to see if anything was missing. And the only thing that was reported was a silverware set that was missing out of a box. Like not like your normal like Walmart type.
Right, but like the good stuff.
The good stuff.
Yeah. Like the holiday silverware.
Right, the holiday silverware. So it starts working backwards with that case. one, they're trying to determine, when this happened. She'd obviously have been there for a couple of days because of the condition of the body. And then during their initial investigation, they learned about where the whereabouts of her vehicle, Miss Britt's vehicle, was. And they learned that on Saturday morning, which would have been the 5th of June, the Dickinson Fire Department around 5:30 in the morning responded to a vehicle fire. It was in the 3800 block of Highway 3. There's a harbor theater there. There's a blue game room or something like that that's right there, and in between there is where her vehicle was found fully engulfed in flames on that early Saturday morning. And so they start kind of working back that way. So now we know that her family knows that her car's missing. Now we know where her car is at, and there's actually video of 2 people walking away from that vehicle.
Wow. So it's assumed that there was 2 people at the scene of the crime.
I mean, speculating, yes.
I'm still kind of stuck on the fact that the house was completely closed up. So how do you kind of lock the door behind you? How did they get in?
Or was it a friend or family member who came up to the back door or something?
Yeah, it's unsolved. That's the questions that haven't been answered yet, right? So, and again, you would cut the power of the house to conceal your crime, and then. So a few days later, they have, with any homicide, you're going to have an autopsy done at the medical examiner's office. And that's when they learned that Miss Britt had been strangled and beaten and strangled. And usually strangulation, at least in my experience, my strangulation and the kind of beating that she took to me was personal, almost like she knew who that was. And I believe in 2010, that's how we were reported. It was, they felt like they suspected it was somebody that she knew. With most homicides, most victims know their killer. There's some stranger ones, probably, but
so I know it is so sad. That's a really sad statistic that most people who are murdered know the person, already.
And a lot of times it's family members.
Yeah. So with as active as Miss Britt sounds like she was in her neighborhood, do you know how long it had been since somebody had last seen her or talked to her?
Yeah, so the last verifiable time that I know of was someone saw her walking the neighborhood that morning, and they saw her conversing with a male subject on a bicycle. And that male subject is well known in the neighborhood. He's, I guess what you would call a handyman, and his name was David Smith. Of course, the detectives spoke with Mr. Smith on a few occasions, but that was the last time that she was seen by anyone that I know of. I believe there was a missed phone call by her later in the afternoon, early evening of Friday night. That would be Friday, June the 4th, and then after that, nobody really knows.
Let's go back to Dickinson, where the car is engulfed in flames and 2 people are seen kind of walking away from it. Where did that image come from? Did some of the buildings have cameras?
Right, the game room there across the parking lot. So you have I believe it's called Harbor Theater, and then you have a gravel parking lot, and then just to the north of that, in that connecting parking lot is that game room. I think it's called the Blue Room, maybe, and it's a camera from that facility or that building.
Do we know if anyone else, I don't know, maybe tracked? Were there other cameras from
other
buildings?
The detectives then, they walked, they looked off. So that's Highway 3, right? It's Highway 3 just north of FM 517 in Dickinson.
Okay.
And there was actually a fire marshal out, I believe on the freeway somewhere, a Dickinson fire marshal answering a call or whatnot, and he heard the vehicle fire call dispatch, and he came down Deach Road en route to Highway 3. Deach Road connects with Highway 3. And he observed a male subject walking down the sidewalk kind of away from that area. It was quite a ways from the car fire, but it's 5:30 in the morning, and he thought that was weird. So he that person was eventually identified and spoken to by detectives. but there was 2 that were walking away from the car. And I don't know if he was one of them or not. To be honest with you, the video's not that great, but if you were in the area at that time, I mean, that was, man, almost 15 years ago. But if you were in the area, what I did see on that video, the one guy, I say guy, it could be 2 females, we don't know. But the one subject leaves first away from the vehicle, and you can't really see the vehicle because it's off of the camera view. And then you see kind of like the flames just in the background, like the car's catching on fire, and then you see the second individual walking away. And when that person gets up to Highway 3 to walk, they have to stop because there's a white 18-wheeler going southbound on Highway 3. So he has to wait for the big truck to go by. And then he crosses, and I always wondered who that was. Did you see who that guy was? That was a long time ago, though.
Right.
But we have no idea who was driving the big truck.
From when the vehicle caught on fire on camera, I'm assuming if there's like a timestamp or something, to when it came in, called into 911, do you know about how long that was? I mean, that just seems, even though it was kind of an off time of the morning, it seems like that would be something that would be hard for someone not to see.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a timeline. I just don't remember what that was. It wasn't long.
Yeah.
It wasn't very long.
What could make, I don't know, in my mind, I feel like it takes a long time for a car to really be engulfed in flames. Is that a right assumption, or is it fairly quick?
Well, don't misquote me. I was a fireman for a little bit in my earlier days.
Yeah.
Well, I was a fireman, so from my understanding, my memory, if the fire has enough fuel, it could double in size about every 30 seconds.
Okay.
Wow.
So it's pretty quick. I can get into the fire triangle and fire science, but that's not what we're talking about. But
Right.
yeah, if it has enough fuel, about every 30 seconds, it can double in size. So a car fire, it doesn't really take long to go up in flames if it's got the fuel.
So I know you said the car was found in Dickinson and Miss Britt lived in Texas City. Did she live in an area of Texas City that was closer to the Dickinson side?
No, Miss Britt lived on East Road. She lived in the 300 block of East Road, the 200 block of East Road. It's actually called Southeast Road. So that's out, if you go out 7065, go past 146, go past Highway 30, keep going almost to the freeway on, 7065 divides Texas City and Lamarck. We're on if you're going towards the freeway, we're on the right-hand side. And East Road, Southeast Road is kind of like a horseshoe. It makes a horseshoe. So Southeast Road, and then it goes up, I believe that's Downey, and then it comes back and it's Southwest Road. There's, I don't know, probably 30 houses in on that 2 little streets, but it's a pretty close network of people. They all know each other. And they all knew, for the most part, they all knew Miss Britt as well. But that's out that way, and then her cars, if it would be more straight up Highway 3. Miss Britt and her family were actually originally from Dickinson.
Okay.
That's a little interesting, connection. I don't know if Miss Britt actually lived in Dickinson, but I know that her brother did at a point, and some of her nephews and nieces and stuff.
With someone who it sounded like touched a lot of lives in the community, had a lot of connections, like you said, in her neighborhood, it was kind of tight-knit, she was the watchdog. Does that make it more difficult to start narrowing in list of people to talk to or who might know something or be involved?
Well, the detectives then, they did a really good job. They talked to a lot of people, almost all of those neighbors on those 2 streets. They talked to people outside of that neighborhood. They talked to people in Dickinson. They did a really thorough job of trying to find out what happened. Who's mad at an 84-year-old lady?
Right.
So to have a murder, you have to have 3 things. You have to have motive, means, and opportunity. If you don't have one of those, you can't have a murder. So the main deal here, right, is the motive. What would be the motive to kill Miss Britt?
I was not just the silverware,
Yeah, well, and then another thing, too, that we didn't talk about is for a couple months leading up to her being discovered murdered, her car had been tampered with, somebody was trying to break into it. And she actually conversed with her neighbor saying that she thought somebody was picking on her, So I think that might be a connection, because then, they ended up stealing her car. So maybe the car was the motive. I believe, based on some of the evidence, that it was after dark, probably close to whatever time she would normally go to bed is when this happened. It wasn't like in the morning. Like, 'cause I remember I told you that she was seen talking to a guy on a bicycle, David Smith, on the bicycle earlier that morning, probably around 10:30 in the morning. And there was a missed phone call between her and another person mid-afternoon, late evening. But I don't know what time Miss Britt would normally go to bed. But based on the evidence, she was in that kind of like in that mode of getting ready
Winding
for
down.
bed. So winding down for the evening.
Cutting off the power to the house, because this is in June, it's hot. Does that like accelerate, I don't know, like the decomposition of the body?
It can.
Kind of.
Sure can. Yeah, weather affects the body after your death. You know, obviously, the colder it is, the slower things slow down. The hotter it is, it speeds it up.
Does that affect how the medical examiner would write their report, or do they kind of take that into
Yeah,
consideration?
they take that into consideration. And I don't know if it was even documented, like what the temperature was inside of her house when they discovered it. I don't know. I don't recall ever seeing that, like that documented anywhere. But you know, what the medical examiner obviously came out to the medical examiner investigator came out to the scene, and they document stuff like that because they do a report and they do their own investigation.
Oh, okay.
You know, parallel with the detectives.
So with everything that Miss Britt was collecting, was the silverware particularly valuable amongst everything else? Or does it seem, to me, just, you know, hearing it for the first time, it seems so random, you know, of everything. If there's a house full of things, why the silverware?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think there was a value put on it, but it was probably, like you said, it's probably like for Christmas or some special occasion. And I want to say the reason why it was thought to have been taken is it was kept in a box, and that box is missing. Like, you know, most of that silverware is in its own box, but that box was in another box, and that second box is what was empty, and that's what, I guess, what drew the family's attention to it.
Does the family still call about this case?
They do from time to time. I haven't heard from her sister her daughter in a couple of years, but it depends on how old the case is. Yeah, they call and check on it. That's what keeps like these types of cases on somebody's mind, is either a family member will call and check every couple of years. A detective may get attached to a particular case that they either worked originally or, like me, like reviewed it. The media, so those are usually the three things that keep these cases fresh in everybody's mind.
I like that even though it's been so long, it is still fresh in your mind, you know, that you still have the files ready and the pictures. I went in your office and you had, you know, like Miss Britt's, you know, photo, like ID photo still. I think if I was someone in her friends or family, that would give me some comfort to know that, you know, she's not forgotten about. And it's not, I know you said earlier off camera, like we don't call them cold cases because they're never cold to us. And I think that's a comfort in and of itself.
Well, something else we've done is we've upped the ante because we're going to solve this one. So, Mainland Crime Stoppers is offering $10,000 for, how do you say?
Information leading to the arrest and conviction of whoever, somebody.
Yep.
Up to that much, yeah.
We're going to be able to lay Miss Britt to rest by bringing that person to justice.
Yeah, so anybody who's watching or listening and this triggered some sort of memory in you, or you might know something, even if it seems insignificant, you never know what could help.
Can I mention about her car?
Yes.
Yes, please.
So her car was a 1997 green, I've read it was teal green or green, Oldsmobile Cutlass Supreme. Again, it's been 15 years, but that would be a car that a teal green car would stand out to me in the middle of the night. I don't know, maybe some people it wasn't. Maybe that's just the way cops think, but So her car was that color and make and model, and it was taken from her house in 200 block of Southeast Road in Texas City, and then found in Dickinson on Highway 3, about the 3800 block. That's all I wanted to add. That's the description of the vehicle.
Why would that car stick out to you at that time?
Just the color. I mean,
Okay.
the teal green. And I don't know. We don't know, obviously, that if the two people in that scene on the video have anything to do with the murder. A lot of times, in the criminal world, they trade a car for money or drugs, or they could be the two people. We don't. I mean, nobody's. Obviously, that's never been resolved, or this case wouldn't be unsolved. So.
Noted. Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
I hope that somebody out there knows something that can help. What have you seen in your time as a police officer do not cold cases, do cases that have had some time on them, they can still be solved, right?
Oh, yeah. So in 2000, I've been a detective for almost right about 10 years, counting my time here in another agency, but in 2000, I think 17 or 18, then Captain Cravens, now our Chief Cravens, he was captain over CI, the Criminal Investigation Division. He wanted somebody looking at the older cases, and Miss Britt was one of the first ones that I was assigned to talk about or to review. We spent, like I was telling you before, the original detectives and crime scene work, I wanted to give them little kudos. They did a really good, thorough job. And it's not, when you look at stuff like that, you're not looking for what they did wrong or what they could have, what are they missing? Is there anything that they're missing? Is there anything that they didn't see or look at differently? So it was very educational to look at these cases. This isn't something you sit down in a day or two and just kind of go through. To thoroughly go through it takes months to just sit there and meticulously go through everything. But did that answer your question?
Yeah. Well, and I'm sure that pieces keep coming in, over those first however many weeks or something, like the footage from the car and then an 18-wheeler crossing paths with the two individuals with the car. I would imagine all that kind of trickles in slowly.
Right, and I believe your original question, this is probably more answers it a little bit better. There's like for lack of a better term, there's like a sweet spot of years where it's still fresh in everybody's mind, but it's older. And I don't remember, probably somewhere around this time, 8 to 10, 12 years. The newer the case, because it's fresh in the media a lot, but as it gets older and older and older, the odds are probably less and less and less, because just like we all get older, people get older, and then some of the witnesses aren't with us anymore. Or there's just things that time basically goes on, and we lose stuff. I believe a couple of her neighbors I know 2 of Miss Britt's neighbors have since passed since her passing. So, and they weren't witnesses, but they were people that were talked to during this case. And that's the problem with time going on, and too much time going past.
Were there any other similar crimes in her area around that same time period?
There were a couple of things in the newspaper back then about 2 other elderly ladies, I believe, maybe around the Harris County Baytown sticks in my mind for some reason. The media try to could they be connected? I don't know anything about those other 2 ladies, except for what was in the newspaper. The way that they died is not the way that Miss Britt died, and that doesn't necessarily mean it's 100% accurate, but I would say, and I think one of them, their vehicle was even stolen. I don't know. Maybe we should sit down, discuss that. But if you Google Miss Britt, 84-year-old homicide, Google will bring you in all kinds of homicides of 80-year-old women, and then some of them are even similar. So then their mind starts wondering, could they be connected? Even though they're not, they could be 200 or 300 miles away. They could be. I don't know.
Well, now it's up to those that are listening to this podcast to help us.
That's right.
Solve it. Any tips or answers that can bring us to the conclusion of this case? contact Mainland Crime Stoppers. Thank you for listening. Till next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Mainland Community Crime Stoppers is offering up to $10,000 for any information that leads to an arrest in this case. Please call 409-945-8477 if you have any information.